Okay, that's good. So, where shall we begin? Would you like to tell me a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, I feel nervous right now. I feel like,
Well, you don't need to be.
yeah. Um, yeah, I mean, I'm not sure what you like need to know or, um,
Well, just to kind of background in terms of your spiritual experiences and any philosophies or spiritual practices you've been involved in, and then just to see, how that brings you up to date so that we can take it from there.
yeah. Um, well, for starters, I'm 29, so that's how old I am. Um,
Mhm.
I found you through a friend who has talked to you a couple times.
Mhm.
And yeah, I started meditating when I was 19, and I just found a book in the library on meditation and didn't even realize what I was about. I thought it was gonna be on psychology
Hmm.
because of the title. And and yeah, I was just like, it was like things I'd never heard before, just how to meditate, really simple
Hmm.
directions.
Hmm.
Um, it was a book called The Awakening of Your Inner Consciousness or something like that. I don't even remember the title.
Mhm.
But from there I read a lot of like Ram Dass and sort of like late 60s
Yeah.
uh kind of, yeah, spiritual guru type people.
Hmm.
And yeah, I went through a phase where I was like looking at different people on YouTube and kind of following what they were doing, and then yeah, it just feels like I've gone through all these phases since that age. And never really, I was really into Eckhart Tolle at some point, and it felt like I never really like found, yeah, just kind of always been looking for like what my higher power is, or what God is. And I feel like that's something I've really been stuck on lately, is like what even is it? I think I have in my mind what I think God is,
Mhm.
but it's like most of the time I don't feel it. So then what is it really?
Hmm.
So I think that's really been what I keep trying to do, is trying to find ways to like feel God.
Hmm.
Um, and maybe I'll find a path that like works for a little bit, and then it's sort of just, it's hard to like hold on to it.
Hmm.
If that makes sense.
Hmm.
Uh, yeah, I feel like that's like the general. I mean,
Yeah,
the
that's
pot
good.
the spiritual experience I've had have been like, um, yeah, just experiences I've had while meditating. I mean, the first time I meditated, I I felt like I was in outer space. I don't really know how else to describe it. It just felt like,
Mhm.
um, it was really, really powerful. And I've had other experiences like that while meditating. Um, and I think those have been helpful, but I've watched some of your videos and you kind of talk about how it's like, um, yeah, things like that are like helpful for a time, but
Hmm.
ideally, Eckhart Tolle kind of talks about the same thing. Ideally, we could sort of occupy that space all the time.
Hmm.
And I feel like that's what I've been searching for.
Hmm. When you had those experiences, did you feel as though you were in space, or did you feel as though you were the space?
That's a good question. Yeah. Um, I don't know how to answer that. Yeah, that's funny. I haven't thought about it like that. I guess I always thought that it was as if my body was floating in space, but
Hmm.
maybe that's
Hmm.
the only way I could really
Yeah.
conceptualize it.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, it's probably unfamiliar, so um, it isn't always easy to describe in words. So
mhm,
yeah, that's fine though.
mhm.
So have you seen any of the videos where people have realized their true nature? Have you seen any of those, Kat?
On your channel?
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's kind of what brought me here, is that I like I said, I kind of used to be really into the YouTube spiritual world, and I was like, I'm not doing that again, you know, and I didn't do that. And that was like years ago. And then this friend of mine, you know, was talking about you one day, and anyway, I was just like, huh, like that does sound interesting. And so she sent me some videos, and there's one particular video of you talking to another man. And I watched that video, and it was like toward the end of the video, I could really, after he realized his true nature, that's how you say it, I could see, I could feel like you two weren't separate. And that was something I'd never experienced before. Just like yeah, it's hard to say what I mean, but it was
No,
like,
that's really nice. That's good.
yeah, it was like I could really, yeah. So I guess that's why I reached out to you, because I hadn't had that experience before. And yeah, so I've seen some of those videos. Yeah.
Good.
Mm-hmm.
Because really we're playing a kind of game, because everything in this world is trying to convince us that, well, we are a separate being, but also that we achieve things through effort and hard work and striving and engaging the mind. But actually there is something which is much more powerful than that. And as we align with our true nature, then that can come forward so that we can have a completely different experience. So yeah, if we could, I'd like to just go through one or two simple little techniques, really, just to see where you are, and that'll just give me a bit of an insight, really, as to where to go. Good. So could you just let me know if there are any thoughts arising in this moment?
Yeah. I mean, do you want me to tell you what they are?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I
Maybe
just
not
feel
all
like,
of them, just one or two. Yeah.
do what?
Yeah, just one or two of them would be great.
Yeah, I feel like I just have this thought. It's just like, I'm nervous. I'm nervous. That's like the thought that's in my head.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, that's fine. What's really nice, though, is your energy is very blissful, and that's a really good sign. So that's great. And so with the nervousness, is it still there, or has it become a little bit quieter?
Yeah, it feels a little better. Feels a little less intense.
Okay, good. Because really, to see one's true nature is quite easy, because it's the distinction between impersonal awareness, which is a field of awareness, which is what we truly are, and that's what we remain as. But because we've been conditioned in the human realm, we've been conditioned to use personalized language. So we describe our experience in terms of personal experience. And I guess the question I asked you is, it's really the distinction between impersonal and personal awareness, because the experience you mentioned about space, that experience can be in two ways. So if it's in the astral realm, which is the mental realm, then it would be the idea that you're in space, the cat is in space, and that you're kind of floating in space, because that's still the mode where it seems as though there are two things. But just being the space is that's actually what is true in terms of your infinite nature, because you remain as this open space of awareness. So if we take the thought, for instance, so the thought of nervousness, that can be experienced in two ways. So in the conditioned way, we personalize that. So we would say, oh, I feel nervous. And that's how we've been conditioned. But if you look directly, what you'll notice is that there is awareness of nervousness. And the awareness that's aware of the nervousness is actually a field of awareness. So can you just see that that's possible, that there is, if you're just looking from neutrality, you can see that there's awareness of nervousness. And it's just that you've been conditioned, as we all have, into believing that it's Catherine who's nervous, when actually there is simply awareness of nervousness.
So it's this difference between saying like I am nervous and that's who I am,
Yes.
versus this a space.
Yes.
Yeah.
Where there is awareness of nervousness, because the truth is the awareness is actually a field of awareness. So the experience you had of space, for instance, that actually exists in this moment. So in this moment, you could say that there is just this infinite field of awareness within which all forms appear. So that field of awareness is, there are no boundaries within that. And to know it is effortless. And so it's just noticing the forms appearing. So in this moment, for instance, there's effortless awareness of the objects in the room. There's effortless awareness of the body sitting on a seat. There's effortless awareness of the two voices, of the conversation, of the computer screen. And really that's what always remains. So in this moment, you're actually remaining as this infinite field of awareness within which all the forms are appearing. One of those forms is the body-mind, which is available to you. It's a kind of virtual reality vehicle, which is called Catherine. But actually, because everything in this world has told you that you are Catherine, then we kind of believe that to be true, because wherever we go, if we speak to our parents or family members or friends, or you watch TV, or watch a film or read a book, everything is in that subject-object mode, the idea that you are existing as a person, and then there's everything which is outside oneself. But if we look directly, what we just see is that there is effortless awareness of the forms arising. So in this moment, there is effortless awareness of the forms. So there's effortless awareness of the light coming through the window, effortless awareness of the trees, effortless awareness of the body sitting on the seat, effortless awareness of the items in the room. And when you're just remaining in your true nature, which is impersonal, effortless awareness, then everything is arising and there's no energetic expenditure involved, because it's all effortless. And so when Kat was a little girl, so say, certainly up to the age of 2, there would have just been effortless impersonal awareness. So whatever the forms that were arising then, so they could be, the sound of rain falling, or toys in the room, or a feeling of hunger, or a feeling of tiredness. And what's aware of all those forms is effortless impersonal awareness, which is an infinite field. It's an infinite field of awareness within which everything appears. So even the sun, the moon, the stars, all the dimensions, they're all appearing within that field. And the reason that one can experience all those forms is because you are that field. You are that field of awareness within which all those forms appear. But you simultaneously have the option for this point value of experience, which is the human experience. And so you can engage that, and you're fully familiar with the storyline relating to Catherine. But all along, you've actually remained in your infinite nature, which is just as this ever-present, imperturbable field of impersonal awareness, which is, it's neutral. There's no judgment. There is just a simple awareness of the forms appearing within that. And so that's the starting point, really. That's what is always there.
Mm-hmm.
But then we can step into the dualistic mode. We can step into the mental, emotional, or physical realms, and we can have those experiences as though we're experiencing as an individual. So we'll just look at that for a moment and see the distinctions. So let's take something arising in this moment. So let's say there is, well, say awareness of the light coming through the window. So just notice the light coming through the window. And just notice that nothing's required to make that happen. It's just arising effortlessly. There is effortless awareness of the light. So the only place that forms can actually be registered is in impersonal awareness. So there's impersonal awareness of the light coming through the window. There's impersonal awareness. Well, there was a sense of nervousness that's probably just subsiding a little bit. There's effortless awareness of smiling. There's effortless awareness of this conversation. And so if we let's take effortless awareness of the light coming through the window. So that's energetically, there's nothing required to do that. But then what I'd like you to do is just engage the mind, just to describe it in some way. So just quite simply, just the kind of day or the color of the light or the quality of the light.
Yeah, I mean, the windows are really big, so I can see all the trees outside, and yeah, it's a beautiful day. They're like, some of the leaves are lit up and some of the leaves aren't, and yeah,
great.
a lot of birds flying around.
And that really that's the distinction between impersonal awareness and personal awareness, or the distinction between effortless awareness and the effort of engaging the mind, because you remain as impersonal awareness. There's no spiritual practice or any kind of therapy or practice required to take you there, because it's where you always are. The only option there is to step into the personal realm. So if you take the example of the light coming through the window, so the awareness of the light is effortless, and then there's the option to engage the mind, and then it's personalized. So it's in terms of sort of comparison. So, the mentioning, the windows, the light, the leaves, and that's all content, and that's a description. It's like a commentary almost on the light. But the awareness that's aware of the light is non-conceptual awareness, and it's very innocent. It just knows everything innocently without any kind of judgment. And you see that the evaluations which take place, they always take place in the mind. So when you're describing the light or describing the leaves, but that's really
sorry.
sorry.
The idea of like your idea of effortless awareness feels really attractive to me, because I feel like, I mean, something I think I said in my email that I struggle with is just really low energy, and it's like it feels like there's some sort of like drain. Like where's the energy going? It's like it's just always it's like it's always going somewhere. I don't know. It's like it feels like it takes me a lot of energy to do like anything, like things that for other people are really easy. And so when or maybe don't take much energy, and so it's like I can tell it's like I'm doing something, like I'm expending energy on things that don't need don't need my energy, if that makes sense. That's what it feels like it's happening. It's like you know, it shouldn't take this much energy to
Yes.
sit and look out the window, but it's like, maybe it's like my mind is like commenting so much. But then I've done a lot of meditation over the years where I've tried to really focus on quieting my mind, and it feels like it's never really worked that well, or maybe it works for a minute and then it's back. So it's like, yeah, so that it's just the idea of the effortlessness. That's one thing that really attracts to your philosophy.
Well, if we have a look, there are two kinds of intelligence which are available in the human realm. So one could say the intelligence which is aligned with your infinite nature, which is available through the body of wisdom. Have you heard me mention the koshas at all, Catherine?
Yeah, you please repeat them though, because I don't fully get it.
So the starting point for us all is attributeless awareness, which is really just awareness aware of itself. Awareness aware of itself, in using Indian terms, they use three terms, which are Rishi, Devita, and Chandas. Rishi means the knower, Devita means the means of knowing, and Chandas means the known. So in the simplest form of awareness, it's just awareness aware of itself. So that really is where Rishi, the knower, is awareness. Devita, which is the means of knowing, is awareness, and what is known is awareness. So it's just self-contained. So it's awareness aware of itself, but not awareness aware of any forms or any objects or anything. And so the first kosha is called the body of bliss. And the amendment in the body of bliss is that it's still awareness which is aware. So the means of so the Rishi, the knower, is awareness. The means of knowing, the Devita, is awareness, but what is known is bliss rather than just awareness. And then in the body of wisdom, the body of wisdom is where all forms arise equally and effortlessly. So as we noticed, we can notice in any moment. So in this moment, we could say there's effortless awareness of maybe some thoughts appearing. There's effortless awareness of maybe some residue of emotion. There's effortless awareness of the two voices, of the computer screen, of the light coming through the window, effortless awareness of the objects in the room. So that is just effortless awareness. And so really the body of wisdom, or effortless being, is where all forms arise equally and effortlessly. So there can be, if we're looking at the forms arising from the body of wisdom, there can be awareness of a busy mind, or there could be awareness of a quiet mind, or there could be awareness of active emotions, or there could be awareness of quiet emotions or no emotion. So that's really where that's the foundation of all experience, and that precedes any forms appearing. That, in fact, that's where all forms do appear. Then there's the dualistic realm, which is the mental, emotional, and physical realms. So that is more like it's a kind of energy game in a way. And the intelligence operating in the dualistic realm is something which is totally different to the energy arising in the body of wisdom or the body of bliss. So there's energetic expenditure there. So what arises with the mental body, with the conditioning we have, is the idea of functioning as an individual. So when Catherine was a little girl, her parents said to her, "Oh, here's our beautiful little girl, Catherine. You know, she has brown hair and brown eyes, and, you know, And then they kind of describe you, and they're explaining, that your qualities and attributes and likes and dislikes. And that's something which initially there is just effortless awareness of. So, there was effortless awareness of Catherine's mum and dad describing the body mind of Catherine. And initially, it would have seemed quite strange, because you knew yourself to be this infinite space, this infinite ocean of awareness. And they were describing this vehicle, which is kind of parked up, which is the body of a little girl, the body mind of a little girl. And then they're inviting you into this dualistic game by trying to get you to believe that rather than you being the infinite neutral field of awareness, which actually you've always remained as, that somehow you've become this little girl. And then so they start to create this character. It's like a characterization where they're building this character. So they're describing you, and then they're asking you your likes and dislikes, and then you're replying to them. And then usually around about the age of 2, the invitations are so frequent that we almost concede to enter into that mode of dualistic experience. So they're calling you by name. They're saying, "Oh, Catherine, would you like to come and have something to eat? And, shall we go to the park?" And they're asking these questions. And even though at that stage, that actually you are this infinite field of awareness within which everything is appearing, there's a kind of concession where they say, "Shall we go to the park?" And then you reply as though you are Catherine. And it's at some point, it's as though there's a switch which is made where the invitation into the programming of individuality, there's a concession into that, and we start to function as though we really are this character. So it's a bit like being given a part in a play. So you, the infinite being, you're the actor. So the infinite being can play any character, but you were given a role in the play, which is the life of Catherine. And so your parents and family members are teaching you the lines, and they're explaining how the play works. And even though initially that you are the actor and you're playing this role, there's a point at which it becomes so intense that the identification with the character seems to obscure what your true nature is. It's like an actor who is given a really great part in a play, and he goes and he's wholeheartedly playing this part, playing this character, and then he forgets that it's a character, and he forgets to go home. He just stays. And that's the human experience, really.
So how do we remember to not be the character? I mean, is it something that we just have to do over and over and over again? Just kind of like a meditation, just remind ourselves all the time, this isn't really who I am. This isn't really these aren't really my feelings. These aren't really my thoughts. Is it just a constant? Because to me, that sounds like a lot of
work.
Effort.
Yeah.
A lot of work.
That doesn't sound much like effortless being, does it?
No, it doesn't. It
Unfortunately, that's not required.
Okay.
So
Cool.
it's nice just to know that well, firstly, seeing the distinction is all that's required. So when you saw the distinction earlier between effortless awareness and then the personalized mode of experience through the mind, you see, and what you can do over the next few days and weeks is you can just have a look at that. So whenever you look, what you notice is that there is effortless awareness of what's arising. So in any moment of the day or night, you can just stop and you can just have a look to see what's arising effortlessly. So there's effortless awareness of the light through the window. There's effortless awareness of the body on the seat. There's effortless awareness of the hair on the side of the face. There's effortless awareness of the objects in the room. And so in any moment, there is just effortless awareness. And
so like I'm interested in how it's different, because I know in some of your interviews you talk about your philosophy being different from like Eckhart Tolle's. And like that's something that's interesting to me, because it sounds like, I don't know if you've said it as much today, but just like that what your idea of like what some people might call God is like that it is me and it is
yes.
you, and it's like I just kind of want to see if I like get what you're trying to say. Like what we're trying to do is like be God, right?
Except we don't need to try to be being, because that's all we can ever be.
And so that's different from like, because Eckhart Tolle says that like the goal is to be present, right? With what his philosophy is like, the goal is to be ourselves, but be present in ourselves. And yours is kind of different in that you're like, we are not ourselves.
Well, what's different really is that Eckhart is really talking about stabilizing an experience of presence. So it's the idea that you, Catherine, rather than being absorbed in the content of the mind and the emotions and the human experience, that you can kind of withdraw attention from the human realm, and that you can create this experience called presence. But it's actually still Catherine in that mode. It's still the idea that it's Catherine who is developing presence. But what's true is that you never really were Catherine. All you've ever been is this infinite field of awareness, which is effortless being. It's the infinite field of beingness within which all forms appear. And that's all you can ever be. And that in Indian philosophy, that is referred to as the impersonal aspect of God. So it's the pure potentiality. So that infinite field of awareness which you remain as is the field within which all forms can appear. So if you look at it in terms of the simplest form of awareness aware of itself, everything really is only awareness aware of itself, but it can be directly known, or it can be in a kind of disguised version. So there's awareness aware of itself, but a disguised version of that would be, say, when Catherine is having a drink. So rather than it just being awareness aware of itself, the disguise would be the knower awareness is disguised as Catherine, and then the means of knowing would be the sense of taste, and what is known is the drink, the water or the drink. So it's still awareness aware of itself, but it's in a disguised version. But the thing to know is that the awareness which is aware in this moment, even though everyone has told you that it's Catherine's awareness, it never was. The awareness that's aware in this moment is actually the awareness of the infinite being. It's just that everyone has told you that it's Catherine who is aware, but it's really a little game of hide and seek. And it's really a mistaken identity, because you've remained as the infinite being, but because everyone has told you that you're Catherine, and everyone has told you that you're existing in time and space, and everyone has told you that it's Catherine who is aware, then we tend to believe that. But it never actually took place, because in this moment, and in any moment, there is always just effortless awareness. But there is the choice to step into the personal realm. So there's no effort required, but what can be beneficial, especially in your case where, the energetic aspect is something which has been slightly burdensome. So rather than functioning in a practical way from effortless being, there's been a kind of fueling of the experiences in the mind, the emotional realm, and the body, which can be quite exhausting. But it's actually based on consenting to the idea that, firstly, you are the thoughts, and then secondly, that you are the emotions, and thirdly, that you are the physical body. But
Yeah, I've heard you talk about like the idea of consent with this, and it's like yeah, I think that feels confusing to me too. Like it's just like it doesn't feel like I'm consenting to anything. It feels like I'm just living my life. I don't know, it doesn't feel like I'm somebody's, right? It's not that obvious. Like it's not like somebody's sending me an invitation and I'm like checking, yes, I'm gonna be there, I'm gonna hang out and be depressed, like I'm not really like.
Well, the thing with consent in the human realm is we don't realize that we've given consent, because if we take, for instance, say your mum, say when Catherine was 2 years old, or 18 months old, and Catherine's mum said, "Catherine, would you like to have something to eat?" And you say, "Yes, please, mummy." That's actually a form of consent. It isn't just consenting to have something to eat. It's consenting to the idea that you really are Catherine, because you've responded as though you are. So you've given your consent to the idea that you are Catherine without realizing that you've consented to that. You thought you were just asking for some food, but you've actually consented to the idea that you are this little girl called Catherine. So that's one level of consent. And then so another level of consent would be, say, with the mind. So say a thought arises in the mind. Well, say a thought is being delivered into the mind, and that thought could be, "Oh, I feel depressed today." Now those thoughts, they're actually being delivered into the mind, and we can talk about that more deeply in a moment, but they're not your thoughts. They're being delivered as an invitation. So when that thought comes in, so say a thought comes in which is saying, "Oh, I don't feel as though I have much energy today," that thought is an invitation. And so there's an option there to either consent to it, and the way we consent to it is personalizing it and believing it.
It's kind of like what you're saying is like, if I accept that this thought, then every time I accept a thought or an emotion, I'm accepting that I'm also Catherine.
Exactly.
Like I can't, like those are kind of stuck together.
You can't separate them, no, because that's the personal realm of experience. What you can do, though, is you can see that the dualistic realms, which are the mental, emotional, and physical, are a self-contained energy structure. So it's like a computer game. So you could say, when you just rest as effortless being, which is just noticing the forms arising impersonally, then you're not consenting to stepping into character. You're not consenting to stepping into individuality and taking delivery of those thoughts. So the difference between the body of wisdom and the body and the mental body in terms of a thought. So say there's the thought, "I don't feel very energetic today." The way that's experienced in the body of wisdom is there is just awareness of that. So there's neutral awareness. So that thought is being delivered. It's almost like listening to a line on the radio. and there's just this line which is saying, I don't feel very energetic today. So the way we describe that is we would just say there is awareness of a thought of not feeling energetic. But in the mental, if it's taken delivery in the mental body, that thought is believed to be true, and then we personalize it. So rather than saying there is awareness of a thought of not feeling energetic, it would be, I don't feel very energetic today. And as you described it really well, where you said that the taking delivery and the personalization are inseparable, because you're remaining as the infinite impersonal being. That's all you can ever be, really. But if you step into the dualistic realm, then personalization is an inevitable consequence of stepping into the personal realm. And so the only place we can take delivery is in a personal sense, because if we remain in our impersonal nature, there is simply awareness of that thought as an invitation. And that's the distinction. It's a bit like Eckhart Tolle talks about the pain body.
Yeah.
The pain body it's the idea that there's an invitation into an emotional frequency. And if we just observe that frequency, then we're not taking delivery of it. So there's no energetic fueling of that experience. But if we take delivery of it, then it compromises us energetically.
Mm-hmm. I'm just thinking about there are a lot of people who talk about the idea of like the importance of feeling our feelings and then maybe like letting it go. Like
Yeah.
When I hear what you're saying, sometimes it makes me think about like how I've had emotions before that I've suppressed, and that's felt really unhelpful.
Yeah.
And so I don't think you're saying you should just or a person should just like suppress
No.
these things that maybe
Oh, absolutely.
the pain body is like delivering, that you should just like pretend like it's not there or like push it away.
No.
Right. But you're also not saying, like invite it in and like give it a cup of tea. Right. You're
No.
just like, it's like you're talking about, right. So like first I would have to feel the emotion
Mm.
in order to let it go, or are you saying something else?
Let's just have a look at that. So the truth is that any kind of releasing, welcoming, fully feeling the feelings is actually consenting to individuality, because there's a level of consent there, which is the idea that those feelings are yours. So the idea of suppressing a feeling, for instance, is based on the idea that they're your feelings to begin with. But the way I explain things is that you remain in your infinite impersonal nature, where there's no content, because you're just resting in this infinite, timeless space of effortless awareness, which is just pure potential. But there's the option to step into the individual realm. So one of the ways of doing that is, well, if we take suppression as an example, there would firstly be the delivery of an invitation. So there could be, for instance, a feeling of maybe anxiety, say, let's take that as an example. So that invitation is just being delivered as an invitation. So there's a frequency of anxiety which is being delivered, and you, the infinite pristine being, can either just be effortlessly, neutrally, and impersonally aware of that, or you can take delivery of it and you can say, I feel anxious. Now, when you consent to the idea that it's yours, you're saying, I feel anxious. And so you've already consented then to the idea that anxiety is yours. And then there's the opportunity to either release it or suppress it. But actually, neither of those are useful, because it's based on a falsehood, which is that emotion was yours in the first place, which it never was. So suppression certainly isn't, isn't what I'm suggesting. It's that the emotions and the content are being delivered, because there's the dualistic realm is almost like a computer game. So it's like it's a self-contained energy game. So you could say that you, the infinite being, you've opted to have the possibility of this experience, which is playing this energy game. So your game piece, your character, is Catherine, and then what's at stake there is the mental, emotional, and physical energy which you've staked in that game. So you're saying, well, I'm going to play this game, and I'm willing to stake my mental, emotional, and physical energy to play this game. The game is going to do everything to try to get you to remain in the personal realm by delivering invitations into the mental, emotional, and physical realms in the most effective way for you to take delivery of those invitations. Because if it can get you to take delivery of them, then that's going to compromise your energy.
And so, like, that's like an entity? Is that like what's like being
Doing that?
like emotions and thoughts into my head? Like, why is that happening?
Yeah.
Like, why would the infinite being like allow that to happen, or like want that to happen?
Sure. Well, it can be explained in several different ways. So the Indian version is that the current human experience is what they describe as Kali Yuga. So there are 4 yugas, which are these cycles of time. And so Satyuga is where creation is a combination of infinite love and infinite intelligence, which gives rise to infinite harmony, infinite potential, infinite love, unity consciousness. And then there can be a decline. So from Satyuga, there can be a decline through Treta Yuga, Dvapara Yuga, down to Kali Yuga. The creation in Kali Yuga is based primarily on intelligence, but without the component of love. So if you look at this, if you look at the 3-dimensional realm, or the dualistic realms, which are the mental, which are the astral, the emotional, which is etheric, and then the physical realm, they're a self-contained dualistic construct. And so you could say it's because the infinite being, because it is infinite, it can experience fullness and it can experience emptiness. So you could say that Satyuga is like fullness, and then Kali Yuga is emptiness. So it's devoid of the component of love. So if you take the beings in this realm, there are lots of beings who are able to experience and express love and feel infinite love and experience unity consciousness. But if you look at the structures, it's actually a predatory construct that we're experiencing. So it's, you look at the components, and it's things like death, sickness, accidents, illness, old age, and suffering. And so it's pretty clear that it isn't, a God of love wouldn't create that. So so that's one way of looking at it. Another way is the sort of Matrix version of things. So the film, have you watched the film The Matrix?
I haven't. I think I kind of know the idea behind it, though.
Basic theme. So the Matrix is an idea that there is this self-contained parasitic structure, and the beings are all functioning unconsciously within that structure without realizing what their true potential is. And they've accepted the invitation into the idea, that they're existing as a human being in time and space. They're just preoccupied with the form. So they're interested in, all of the human realm of experience without ever questioning it. So, they want the holidays, a good job, relationship, all the things that humans aspire to in that sort of realm of form. Probably the easiest one to understand is the Gnostic version. So in Gnosticism, they say that there is God, which they refer to as the parent of the entirety. So that's infinite consciousness, one could say. And so within that, creation, for it to be a divine creation, it would require a combination of infinite love with infinite intelligence, as it's described in the Indian version of the Yugas. But Kali Yuga in Hinduism relates to Gnosticism in that in Gnosticism they say that Sophia, so Sophia is the goddess of wisdom or infinite intelligence, and for it to be divine creation, Sophia would normally combine with infinite love and create a divine creation. But Sophia said, well, actually, I'd quite like to have a go at creating something myself without love. So she created the dualistic construct, and then she administered. She appointed an administrator, which in Gnosticism is called or referred to as the demiurge. So demi means half, and urge means creator. So the structure of the dualistic realms, which encompass the physical, the emotional, and the mental, or the physical, etheric, and astral, is a sort of, well, it's a being which has very powerful intelligence, but it isn't functioning from love. And because it isn't, because it's really like a supercomputer. So in the way the computers don't feel love, but they're very intelligent, this structure is very similar to that. The good news is, though, that we never actually entered it. It's more like a peep show. We're kind of looking into it without it. We're not actually trapped within it. It's an experience we've opted to have. But as we understand how it works, we can actually withdraw the investment from that experience. And the simple distinction, the way to withdraw from that, is in making the distinction between resting as the infinite, impersonal, effortless being, which is what you truly are, or stepping into the personalized realm. Because when we step into the personalized realm, when you're functioning as Catherine, then there's energetic expenditure, investment required. So, whether it's working in a job, engaging the mind to be planning what Catherine's going to be doing, physical exercise, emotional preoccupation or mental preoccupation, they all require energy. But that energy is only required when the character Catherine is being activated, because it's actually optional whether you activate the personalized realm of experience, because what's always there is effortless being and effortless awareness. And what you'll discover is that you can remain in your infinite nature and actually be very selective in the way you utilize the dualistic realm. So, for instance, the way the mental realm works, so there can be invitations which are being delivered in the mind. So once you know that there is this distinct form of intelligence, which isn't God's intelligence, it's like a computer, which is delivering the invitations. So that's why the invitations are personalized. So the human body mind it functions very much like, say, a mobile phone, in that it's a two-way flow of data. So the central source that is administering this energy gain is monitoring the invitations that are being accepted So if there are invitations into, say, low energy or depression or anything like that, that data is being returned, and then it's actually being configured in a way to optimize the possibility of getting you to accept invitations in the future. So they're kind of tailor-made according to the invitations that have been accepted in the past.
Yeah, it's like the way you're talking about it is like, it sounds like social media, right? The way that they create social
Yes,
media to
exactly.
what we look at more is what gets shown more.
Yes,
And so it's like, it's like maybe that's why like social media is so addictive, because it's sort of, it's like it's a double way.
yes,
If that's already what's happening in our like mental and emotional bodies or
yes,
realms, and then it's also happening to us in on the screen, then
yeah.
it's like something that's really like familiar to us, and like
Yes.
maybe that's what, yeah, maybe I don't know, I just had that thought,
No, that's really
maybe that's why
perceptive.
it's
That's
so attractive.
exactly, that's a great way to see it, because it is, social media is really an extension of that. And if you see the way social media works, it actually creates a deeper self-image. So people involved
Mm,
in social media tend to be, trying to project a self-image into the world, which is a mental construct where they want people to see them in a particular way. So they're sort of pouting and showing images of themselves, from the right angle and everything, all that sort of stuff.
at the beach, in Hawaii.
Yeah. And what they're showing you, what delicious meals they're eating quite a lot. That's another one.
Yeah. Yeah, wow, right. And it's like, I mean, people talk about how exhausting it is to be on social media all the time. It's like
Yeah,
that's an example of
exactly.
something that's like really obvious to people,
Yes.
how much
How
energy
exhausting. Yeah,
and how much time
yeah.
they spend in that like never ending, right? It's like partially addictive because it doesn't, you just keep scrolling, it doesn't end.
Yeah, there's never any solution with it. It is there. But it's realizing that the mind, the emotions, and the physical body are also, a form of downloading social media, because it's down, everything is being delivered as an invitation. And it's, as people become totally absorbed with social media, they become totally absorbed with the content of the mind. And because it's being delivered incessantly, then they don't really get any relief from it. So it's just constantly being delivered. So the question of whether it's personalized or whether there's an option to actually step out of that personal delivery system is never even, well, it quite often isn't experienced directly, but they don't realize there's an option. But as I was saying earlier, that even with the mind and the emotions, it is very much like a social media delivery system, and you can decide whether or not you partake in that. So there are lots of things, as social media is designed to keep us on there, the mind is also designed to keep us
Mm.
preoccupied, and the emotions are designed to keep us preoccupied. But once you realize there's this completely other realm, which is impersonal being, which is the only thing you've ever been, really, you don't need to step onto those rides, because the mental and emotional realms, they are like rides. It's like there is the ride of anxiety or the ride of depression, and it's really, it's that sequence, where you notice really clearly the way, firstly there's the personalization, and then there's the content, say the depression, or whatever the content is. And by accepting the invitation, we've accepted the invitation into the personalized realm of experience, which is energetically compromising. But we never entered it. It's in the same way as you say, social media is exhausting, but if you just close the lid on your computer, it's game over. And
Yeah.
it's the same really with the energetic game that's being played on a human level. But there's a more interesting aspect of it in terms of your true potential, which is that all the energy which has been utilized in fueling the dualistic realm and has kept us preoccupied in those experiences, when we see that we can remain as impersonal, effortless being, then that energy becomes available to us in terms of our infinite potential. And really what's happened for Catherine is it's a little game of hide and seek, because you, the infinite being, have played this game of having the intensity of the experience in the personalized realm. But the reason for that really is because what it's done is it's revealed to you the truth of the experience, or in terms of the potential that's available, which is that you can function from impersonal, effortless being. So the more you realize that that foundation is always there, you find there's a different delivery system. So the mind, there are three main aspects to the way the mind functions. The one is it can be the receiver of content from one's impersonal nature. So that's in terms of things like intuition, synchronicity, inspiration, telepathy, all of those things, which all arise effortlessly, or creativity as well. And then there's the practical aspect of the mind, which is where you use it in a, just in a practical way, where if you want to bake a cake, or if you want to, make a cup of tea or something, then you can use the mind just to, in that way. And then there's the third aspect of it, which is the energetic aspect, the energetically compromising aspect, which is where we step into the personalized realm, and we're taking delivery of those invitations. So if we, what I would say, because earlier you were saying, well, do we have to be attentive to this all the time? And the truth is no, because the more you see that you're just resting as effortless, impersonal being, you can live the human experience from there more and more. The way that happens is the mental preoccupation. Say in terms of a 24-hour day, the mental preoccupation becomes reduced hugely. So for someone who is functioning primarily from the mental body, they could be spending, 60, 70, 80% of the time in the mental body. What you can do, though, is you can just begin to see that there's the option to function from effortless being. And that can actually become 70, 80, 90%. And then the rest above that can be bliss.
That would be nice.
Well, it's what's really obvious for you, Catherine, is that is already there for you. You have a very blissful vibe, which is just there, which is behind anything that's going on in the mental body.
Yeah, it's been like an interesting experience for me, because I do feel that. I do feel like I have a lot of joy in my life, and things are really funny. I just find a lot of things really funny, but then I can just so easily go to this place, where I guess I'm, maybe like accepting these invitations I don't want to accept anymore. I mean, I'm thinking too about your so in order to function, though, like as a human, which it's like obviously something I want to do, and it's a gift. It's supposed to be a gift, and it's like I still have to step into that role. You're saying, like, anytime I'm with another person, I need to step back into the role of Catherine, or whenever I'm working, or whenever I'm eating, or anytime I like do something, I have to step back into that role.
The role becomes peripheral. So where the mental body is predominating, there can be a sense of being Catherine and then functioning as Catherine. And that's what's really exhausting, because it's a kind of consenting to the idea that you've got to maintain this character and you've got to be responsible for everything. But
Yes.
that actually isn't true, because the personal realm can become peripheral.
Yeah.
So it can, so even when you're with friends, or even when you're with working, or when you're working, what you find is that it'll become easier and easier just to rest as effortless being, because everything of value comes directly from effortless being, which is from silence, really. And as you notice that, because lots of people, they're living life as a kind of tennis match, which is where they're sort of, they meet someone, and the one person, they're batting concepts over the net for you to take delivery of, and then you're batting them back, and it's like a competition. But from effortless being, you don't need to do that. It's more like there's a martial arts term, which is yield to overcome. So it's really just that you just yield to your infinite nature, and then whatever is required to be said or done or not done, it just comes really easily, and you don't need to be, it's like it's the difference between a proficient
Sorry, I
actor.
don't know.
No, it's really good. It's great, because the laughter is just showing the release, and it's showing that there's a recognition that all of the
Yeah.
effort and all of the preoccupation and the acceptance of the delivery of the invitations isn't necessary.
Yeah, I could really just see the like tennis match. Like that's just how we interact with each other. Like it seems like with a lot of people, I love being around people. I love people, but sometimes it's so exhausting. It's like, what does this person want from me? It
Yeah,
just feels like they're trying to get something from me, and probably
yeah,
I'm doing the same thing to them. And it's like these interactions that could be so loving, but it's just like there's something underneath the surface that's happening
yes,
that doesn't feel good, even with really good
exactly, yeah,
people, right? People that are really trying to do good work and
yes,
help other people. And it's like on the surface, they're helping, and I
yeah.
don't know if that makes sense. So it's like,
Well, it's true, on the surface they're helping, but it's actually based on a concept of personalization. So they think that, so as well as, so rather than they're just being purely helping, which is just arising from impersonal being, there's also the idea that they're maintaining this personalization. So it's like having this pet orangutan that you're sort of dragging around with you. So wherever you go, you're trying to achieve something, but you've always got this character with you.
yeah,
But
yeah,
it isn't necessary, because life can be effortless, because you can, what you'll see is that there's the option to function from your infinite nature, and you can review some of the invitations. So say there have been invitations into things like compromised energy, or any kind of emotional turbulence. You'll see that any which have predominated are the ones which continue, because they're the ones which you've accepted delivery of in the past. So if you've taken delivery of certain certain emotional invitations, then that delivery, it sort of sets up the system, because there's the possibility of you taking delivery of them again. So if you have somebody where there's, say, a predominance of fear, then there wouldn't be content delivered which is designed to put them into, say, depression or anger or anxiety. It would, because it's tailor-made.
mm-hmm.
So
Yeah,
you
just
tend,
like the social media thing again, right? It's like,
exactly. That's a great, it's great that you see that so clearly, because that's exactly, social media is an extension of the energy system. It's
yeah, it really is
interpretation.
feeling like that, like oh yeah, the irony of that. I mean, it's not just irony, it feels like it makes perfect sense. um
Yeah,
and I'm like, with the social media metaphor, I also really like that. It's like it's there was something I wanted to say earlier about like, so you're saying like, you know, ideally we'd like turn the computer off and just like shut it down, but it seems like a lot of people will say, you know, if we have a lot of negative thoughts, if we're, you know, have a lot of depression or self-hating thoughts, that the way to combat that is by making gratitude lists, and like, and those are things that have been really helpful to me. But it's like what I talked about earlier, where it's like, you know, there are all these things that are helpful, but it's like, I want the thing that's
Yes,
gonna really heal me, you know?
exactly.
And so, yeah, it's like, I'm thinking about it with social media with this metaphor. It's like, I could choose to maybe follow people that only post gratitude lists, or they only post, you know, here's the positive thought for today,
Yeah,
or you
yeah.
know, like here's a good workout routine that's going to make you feel really good, you know. Yeah, I don't know, I'm just thinking about the difference between that and but you're still on social media, right?
Yeah,
You're
exactly.
still
And also there's the element of consent in each of those things, because gratitude can only, you can only take delivery of something which involves gratitude in the personal realm. So you've already consented, you know, by gratitude lists, you know, they can only be based on the idea that you're existing as a human being in time and space. And the thing to realize is that absolutely everything in the human realm of experience is part of this dualistic energy system in space. But once you realize that you're actually only ever able to be the infinite impersonal being, then you realize that you can withdraw consent from the idea of personalization. And then you realize that all that content can only be taken delivery of if you've already consented to the idea that you're existing as an individual. But as Nisargadatta says, he says, remain as the I am. What he means by that is the I am, which is the capital I am, is the I am of the infinite being, which is actually impersonal being, impersonal awareness. So we can remain, when we remain as the impersonal I am, that's neutral in terms of energy, but it's actually infinite potential in terms of alignment with our infinite nature and the delivery of intelligence, which is coming from the combination of infinite intelligence and infinite love, rather than entertaining this dualistic system, which is an energetic game, which if we're preoccupied with it, it just has no end, in the same way as social media has no end. There's never any solution in that. There's never, the truth is, there's never any solution. There's never an ultimate solution in therapy. There can be temporary relief, so we can welcome or feel the feelings, or, you know, whatever it is, which can give us temporary relief, but it never gives us the ultimate solution. The ultimate solution is that we remain as the infinite impersonal being. None of that content belongs to us, but because we are the infinite being, we can step into the option of limitation, and we can experience in the personal realm. And when we do opt for that, then we're in the energetic game.
So it's like, even if we're, you know, I don't know, I'm just thinking about it in terms of like being, you know, I guess the things that I enjoy as a person, that, yeah, I don't know, like what's the reason behind that? Like, should I not be enjoying things as an individual? Like, I love dancing, for instance,
Yeah.
you know, right? Like there are a lot of people in my life that I love to be with and to talk to.
Yes.
Like,
This is a perfect, this question is actually being delivered from one's infinite nature, because it actually gives rise to the understanding of how we function as a human being, which is selectively. So rather than entertaining all of the emotions, you realize that you can turn off the ones which are energetically exhausting, but you keep the ones on which are energetically enhancing. So, the words used there are things like love and, like with dancing, for instance. So dancing is creativity. So that is actually coming directly from the body of wisdom or effortless being. And what I'm sure you've noticed is when you're dancing really well, it's effortless and it's totally joyful. And the more you align with the flow of dancing and creativity, the more joy arises and the more effortless it becomes.
Yeah.
So it's selective in that sense. So anything, it's really easy, actually. It's a really easy way to navigate through the dualistic realm, which is anything that gives rise to a sense of ease, delight, expansion, love, compassion, unity. They're all the experiences to follow. Any invitation which is being delivered, which is taking you into limitation, conflict, duality, defensiveness, emotional or mental compromise, then there are options. You can go on those. They're like going on the ghost train at the fun fair, but you don't need to go on those. You can go on the really nice ones.
So yeah, you're like talking about, right? I not only do I have this choice in what I think and feel, but also in the physical realm.
Yes.
Yeah.
So if we take the koshas, so there's the body of bliss, the body of wisdom, the mental body, the emotional body, and the physical body. So currently, human beings tend to, the koshas can predominate in the experience of human beings depending on what the tendencies are. So for some people, there could be a tendency to be preoccupied in the physical realm. So that would be preoccupation with appearance, physical exercise, all of those things. And those things in balance are great, actually, because the idea is for there to be balance in the functioning of the five koshas. So you want, so really, being able to align with the body of bliss is really powerful, because that creates health and vitality in all of the koshas. So that's already available to you. Bliss is something that's probably the incentive behind the dancing, because it takes you into bliss.
Yeah.
So creativity, the body of wisdom, so that any kind of creativity, effortlessness in terms of things like dancing or singing or writing or any kind of creativity, that all comes from one's infinite nature. The mental body, when we know how to utilize it, is very effective as well. So the mental body is really good at structuring things. It's very good at taking delivery from effortless being or from our infinite nature as well. So as that question arose, how do we most effectively experience in the human realm? We experience selectively. So we select the way we use the mind. So we utilize the mind to take delivery of inspiration, synchronicity, telepathy, all of those things. We utilize it in a practical way. So if we need to do something on a practical level, we can utilize it. What we don't utilize it for is to become fully preoccupied with thought streams and delivery of invitations that are designed to compromise us energetically. So we turn that aspect of the mind off.
Yeah, it's like there's so often I can feel this, or really more lately, it's like I feel like my intuition is getting stronger, which is incredible, and it's something I pray for all the time, a lot. But I can feel it, like I can feel my brain and my intuition sort of like fighting. It's like they're you know, I'm like, or I try to convince myself like, oh, that's not really my intuition. I don't know what that is. And it's like I'm over here lying to myself. And then I'm yeah, I don't know. It's interesting that they can be like at odds. And it's like the same person, right? It's just this is all happening within this body, right?
Yeah.
Um,
Well, we're never told, nobody tells us that there are two sources of intelligence. You know, the one is within an energetic construct, and it's dualistic, and the other one is infinitely intelligent and infinitely loving and has our best interest at heart. So we can make the distinction between the invitations being delivered on that basis. So the intuition which is coming in is coming from your infinite nature. But anything which is inviting you into any kind of mental or emotional turbulence is part of the energy construct, which you can decline.
mm-hmm. Yeah, right. It's just this, I guess part of what I feel like is the work is deciphering between those two, right? Like what is my, what
Which
is
is really, yeah. Well,
what,
it's really easy because there's a kind of guidance system on the feeling level which lets you know the source of the content. So if there's something which is coming in which is really inspiring, you know, something, you know, say one of your friends rings you up and they say, oh, shall we go dancing on Saturday night? Then, you know, there can be a feeling of lightness, expansion, joy, and knowing that that's going to be just a lot of fun. So you say yes. Or there could be, you know, a call from someone else who could be preoccupied in the mental and emotional realms, and they say, oh, Catherine, can we meet up for coffee? You know, I've got you know, some things I'd like to discuss with you. You'll never believe what's happened to me now. And so you can decide on how, you know, on how you handle those things, but obviously being compassionate. But what you find though is once you understand how to make the distinction between the dualistic realm and functioning from unity within your infinite nature, then all activity is beneficial, because you'll find that the frequencies which are being delivered to you, they enable you to align with your infinite nature, and then you find the true purpose of your life. You know, you mentioned in your email that, you know, there are certain things you're considering in terms of your life at the moment. And the truth is that there's something which is what you've been, it's really what you've been born for, which is, not that you were ever born really, but, you know, it's for me. In the human realm, there is, you know, there's something which is available to you, which will come to you effortlessly, and it's actually to do with all the things which you're capable of achieving effortlessly, all the things you really enjoy, and it is probably something to do with helping people in some way, but it's to do with helping them in terms of realizing their true nature and freeing them from this energetic game. That's probably the highest purpose. And so when we're functioning from effortless being, we align with our infinite nature, and we're actually in service to the infinite being, to our infinite nature. Whereas anything in the mind is putting us in service of individuality. So that's things like, you know, possession, self-image, mental predominance, emotional predominance, physical predominance. But the benefit of functioning from one's infinite nature is that the true purpose of you know, finding yourself in this dualistic realm at the moment will be revealed to you, and then the dualistic realm, whether it's in terms of mental, emotional, or physical content, will be utilized in balance. So, you know, using the mind in the way, where it's in alignment with one's infinite nature, and then utilizing the emotions which are to do with the higher emotions, and not consenting to the invitations into the lower frequencies. And then in the physical realm, it's about balance, about anything that you really enjoy in the physical realm, like dancing is great exercise, but the benefit of it is it's the opportunity to align with your infinite nature.
Mm-hmm.
But that's true of lots of sports, in physical activity. If you take most games, the more we align with our infinite nature and the less the mind's being utilized, then the play is just much more efficient.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've definitely been feeling lately like I said in the email, or I don't know, I don't really remember what I said in the email, but it's just like yeah, just feeling sort of like preoccupied with the negative things that are like going on in the world, and feeling like, how can I help? Like
Yes.
where can I fit in? Like it doesn't look, yeah, just feeling really negative about things that are going on. And like I know that there are also really incredible things that are happening at the same time. And like I know that in my head, but it's like
well, you know it intuitively too, because the topics you mention are also invitations. So there are invitations on an individual level. But if we watch the mainstream news, for instance, or read the newspapers, we're receiving invitations on a collective level. So it's like the way to see it is that there's a game being played at the moment, which the one aspect of the game is to preoccupy everyone and get them to be aligned with individuality, personalization, energetic compromise. Or there's the opportunity to wake up to realize that this is only an energetic construct, and that you, the infinite being, have never entered into that. So you can play the dualistic game in a much more conscious way, without being energetically investing in it. And then you find that that you're actually in service to the infinite being. So the potential that is available really is, as Eckhart describes, he says that it's coming to a point where identification with form is coming to an end. So identification with form, whether it's with thought forms, emotional forms, physical forms, we can utilize those realms in a conscious way, where we can have all the great experiences. Like, so the physical body is great for dancing, for instance. There's a huge amount of joy available, so you wouldn't want to get rid of that. The emotional realm, if you think of your friendships, all the people you love, your family and friends, you still want to maintain all of that. But the nice thing is that when you're functioning from effortless being, then that's also giving an invitation to everyone around you to function from effortless being, because they'll detect in you the possibility of living from their infinite nature, and that's something which is attractive.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I feel like maybe the only other thing I'm, because I've just been so like, I guess, stuck on this concept of God. I'm just like, I mean, in your philosophy, like what is that? Like, yeah, I guess that's just, I think I said that at the beginning of this conversation, but like the difference in what I've heard you talk about that has like been really intriguing to me is that concept of like being God ourselves. That also feels like kind of bad and sacrilegious and like, not that I'm religious, but I have that background, and like it just feels yeah, right. It just
Well,
feels like icky to me, and like scary, and like wrong, right? It feels like wrong to think of myself that way.
the reason for that is that all religious conditioning is in service to the dualistic realm. So all of the religions are based on the idea that you really are this person called Catherine, and you can worship God, but it's still in a dualistic realm. If you're a good girl, God will look on you favorably, but if you're a naughty girl, then he was not going to help you very much. But if you with effortless being, you realize in Eastern philosophies, the concept of God is that there is an impersonal and a personal aspect of God. So the impersonal aspect of God is impersonal being, which is what you are. So impersonal being is infinite potential. So if you take awareness aware of itself, so that's really the simplest form of awareness. But that trinity of awareness aware of itself is within that there is infinite potential, because any version of experience can arise within that. So whatever if you just review any experience, you'll see that there is always only awareness aware of itself, either directly or in a disguised form. So there is always just that, the simplicity. So just remaining as impersonal awareness, you're actually remaining as the infinite being. But that is contrary to the conditioning we've had through the religions, because they all maintain a dualistic mode of experience.
Yeah, I think it's something that's really hard for me to accept, or like I'm trying to keep an open mind. And
well, what you need to realize is that there's an element of consent there. So when Catherine was a little girl,
it's so funny
was
too that you keep calling me Catherine, because it feels it's significant to me, because I go by Kat now, but as a little girl I went by Catherine, so it's really funny to me. I'm not even sure how you know that, because I don't think I wrote that anywhere.
So well, yeah. So it was Catherine who was the little girl. So when Catherine was a little girl, there was just infinite awareness, aware of this body mind called Catherine, and that was the starting point. So all the forms would be appearing. So say Catherine, the body mind of Catherine, could have been sat on the carpet playing with toys, and there could have been effortless awareness of the body mind, effortless awareness of the sound of the TV, effortless awareness of cars going by, of rain falling, of wind in the trees, effortless awareness of a sense of hunger or a feeling of tiredness, effortless awareness of family members around, or effortless awareness of toys or the objects in the room, books, or whatever those forms were. And then just the invitation which came along was for you to identify with the character called Catherine. So Catherine's mum and dad would say, oh, here's our little girl, Catherine, and we're just going to take her to Sunday school. Because we wanted to have this full-on dualistic experience where she feels as though she really is this little girl called Catherine in this alien world. And but it's actually because she's the infinite being, and the purpose of this experience is to know one's true infinite nature by contrast. So you realize the purpose of experiencing as though you were Catherine is for the joy of waking up to remember that you never were, that you've just remained in your true infinite nature.